I want to echo what he said about no shame with first steps. Like my first Sunday at Faith Center, I preached a sermon and I hadn't even been to the intro to Faith Center course. So I also, two things real quick, two things I know for sure. I don't remember everything from seminary, but I do remember these two things. Number one, if you get baptized on Easter, you're like doubly saved. So for anyone who's looking for that nudge, this is the nudge right here. But I mean, Easter Sunday is already the most important Sunday, bar none, the most important Sunday in the church calendar. If Christ has not been raised, as Paul says, then nothing else matters. But he has been raised. So everything else matters, and we have the rest of our lives to figure out how it matters. So if you've been walking with us or the Lord's been moving on your heart, you don't even fully understand all that means. But there's something, as Mark or I or others keep saying, baptism, the waters of baptism. That's the Lord. It really is. You don't have to have it all figured out. That's the Lord. He invites us to obey his promptings. We have pastors, so if you email George at faithcenter.org, Mark or George would love to just discern with you, pray with you, see what the Lord is doing. But it's gonna be a really great time. So baptisms at the 9 and 11 a.m. service next week, which is gonna be great. The other thing I learned from seminary is if you ever want the Holy Spirit to fall, just sing Shout to the Lord. Amen? I'm telling you, man, that song, it calls to a deep place in my spirit. It is the best. Well, welcome, guys. My name's Russ. I'm one of the pastors here. Thank you for being with us. We have been in this series on Ephesians. We're taking a break from Ephesians today and next Sunday because we are entering today into Holy Week. We're entering into Holy Week. This is the week in the midst of the gospel accounts where Jesus, who had conducted most, if not all of his ministry outside of Jerusalem, the capital city, in the surrounding regions and villages, he finally enters into Jerusalem. It kicks off a week of all sorts of events and experiences for Jesus, and it will culminate in him being crucified on Friday. Where will we be on Friday? U of O campus to celebrate our Good Friday service, but it culminates with Jesus being crucified on Good Friday and then put in the tomb on Saturday, or Friday night in the tomb Saturday, and resurrected on Sunday. I want to start, this is going to tell you a lot about me, but I want to start with a meme I saw on my social media accounts that was really interesting for today's message. It was a meme that was contrasting different ethical theories through the lens of fantasy novels. So that's my algorithm right there. It was contrasting between The Lord of the Rings and Dune, which, yeah, it's great. Which, according to this meme, I did not look it up because that's what the internet's good for. You just accept everything at face value. But I have read both of these books, so I knew a little bit. But according to this meme, apparently J.R. Tolkien really did not like Dune. J.R. Tolkien wrote the Lord of the Rings novels. He didn't like Dune. And the reason he didn't like Dune is because he felt that the ethics of Dune were fundamentally wrong. Now, Dune, when you look at some of the protagonists, the characters, Paul Atreides, and spoiler alert, but he ends up slowly coming to terms with his messianic role, and he ends up declaring war, jihad, on his enemies to establish peace. But that the ethics that sort of inspire that movement is known as a pragmatic ethics, pragmatic or utilitarian ethical theory, which is simply this. You don't remember those words, just remember this. The pragmatic ethics says the ends justify the means. And we understand that on some level. I certainly do, right? This view that the end, if the end is something good, then the means, which might not be good, are justified in accomplishing it. So I've been in those spaces. I'm not gonna ask you to raise your hand, but I have. Just as a pastor, I'm out myself. I'm a work in progress. I have certainly told a lie to protect someone else's feelings. I've done that. I have done something, I've told a lie to protect their feelings. I've committed an act of violence, even verbal violence, to try to bring order and peace to a situation. In the pragmatic ethical theory, it's this idea that there is no such thing as absolute right or absolute wrong. It shifts based on the situation, based on the circumstance, because what we most want is a certain end, a certain goal desired. So whatever it takes to get to that end or that goal is right. And this meme pointed out correctly that those who hold this position thrive. They live entirely by their own strength. Now, on the other hand, you have J.R. Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings and the ethics within the Lord of the Rings, which is also, I would add, a biblical ethic. It's based out of the scriptures, which says right is right and wrong is wrong, regardless of results or implications. So Frodo's quest to destroy the ring is right because it resists evil, not because he's guaranteed to succeed. Are you with me this morning? There is a moral law in the universe that is right, that is God. Even if the results of embodying this law, what is right and righteous and good, even if the results are not so good, like it gets us killed in the process. Today is Palm Sunday. Today is the day where we remember 2,000 years ago, the historical moment that Jesus rode into Jerusalem on the back of a donkey and inaugurated Holy Week, as I mentioned. So in this next week, he will share the Last Supper with his disciples. He will be betrayed by one of them, Judas Iscariot. He will be put on a cross and killed, and he will be raised. And we need to situate our understanding of this week through this lens. I love the way N.T. Wright, who's a New Testament scholar, describes this moment. He says, within his own time and culture, Jesus riding on a donkey over the Mount of Olives, across the Kidron Valley, and up to the Temple Mount, which was the journey Jesus took. Doing all those things, it spoke more powerfully than words could have done of a royal claim. The allusion to the prophet Zechariah is obvious, and Zechariah wrote hundreds of years before this moment. The so-called triumphal entry was thus clearly messianic. A lot of big Bible words there, but messianic is Messiah. So the Jews were expecting their Messiah. Messiah comes from a Hebrew word, Mashiach, which means to be anointed, the anointed one. So there was a prevailing belief, backed up by all sorts of prophecies from God's holy prophets for hundreds of years, that when Messiah came, when God's anointed one, the one dripping with the anointing of God's Spirit, when Messiah came, there was great expectation from the Jewish people that the world would be made right, that they would see the end of worldwide peace, and we should add, not just worldwide peace, but Jewish vindication being put on the top of the world order, would be established. And Jesus, he played into all of those images. When he rode on the donkey over the Mount of Olives, into Kidron Valley, up to the temple, he knew the prophecies. He knew what he was doing. He was embodying that claim, which is why the people, when they recognize that here's this guy who's been teaching and healing and like commanding a lot of rumors about him. Could this be the guy? When he sort of adopts those prophetic garments as his own and rides in, everyone would have been like, he's the one. That's why they spread their cloaks on the ground and they put the palm branches and they say, as Pastor Mark said, Hosanna, which means save me. Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest, save us in the highest, Lord. Blessed is he, Jesus, who comes in the name of the Lord. In Holy Week, if we're being honest, it actually starts out exactly how they expected. Jesus kind of starts living into their expectations of how the Messiah would act, how he would claim his royal power. Finally, he's been teaching about stuff, he's been healing, now he's really going in. Because the first thing Jesus does is he goes to the temple and he makes a whip. And you know the Jewish people are like, oh yeah, here we go. But instead of using it against the Romans, he actually uses it against the Jewish leaders. And he drives out the moneylenders and the mercenaries in God's temple. And he says, this is a house of prayer for all nations. This is not a den of thieves. This is not a place where people get rich off of exploiting their neighbor's back. No. Jesus even embodied the wrath that they expected. And then he walked in sort of the surrounding areas, and he saw a fig tree that had no figs, no fruit, and he cursed it. He said, may you never bear fruit again. And you know his disciples were like, oh yeah, here we go, baby. He's getting ready. He taught that week, this upcoming week, he taught at the temple, and his authority was unmatched. There was this growing expectation that this is the Messiah. He's about to set us free from Roman oppression. Grab your swords, Israel. Grab your swords. Here we go. But then it started to go downhill. Such as at a meal where a woman, one of his disciples, took an alabaster jar of pure nard, a year's wages, and used it not for the good of the cause, not to recruit more people, not for the marketing budget to make more pamphlets for what they're about to do, but wasted it on him, poured it on his head and on his feet, and washed his feet with her hair and worshiped him. And he accepted that. He said, this is good. This was the right decision. She made the right decision here. And then he shares the Passover, the most important Jewish meal, with his closest disciples. And when he gets to the part of acknowledging the lamb and the bread and the bitter herbs, he does something staggering. He replaces it with himself. He says, hey, FYI, this lamb and bread, it's no longer just lamb and bread. This is my body. This is my blood. From now on, when you declare that God has saved you, he saved you through me. Not just from the past, but now. He then tells his closest disciple, his best general, the one who has stayed close to him the entire time and said, Lord, even if all fall away, I'm going to go to death with you. He says, well, actually, not only are you not going to go to death with me, but tonight, just tonight, before the rooster crows, just in a couple hours, you're going to deny me 3 times. See, friends, on Palm Sunday, we recognize that Israel, and if we're being honest, ourselves, they were expecting a pragmatic king. They were expecting a king who would choose any course to justify the ends of peace. Because that's how the world works. They were expecting Jesus to choose violence to make peace. They were expecting Jesus to choose wrath to establish relationship. They were expecting Jesus to use ruthless economics to create a time of prosperity. And what slowly began to dawn on them, and what this week requires it to dawn on us, is that Jesus is a different king. Jesus will walk in the way of truth and righteousness, even if earth, stained and ruined by its sin and its greed and its lust for power, does not recognize him and snuffs him out. What we see on Palm Sunday and this week leading up to the crucifixion is what scholars and theologians and pastors have called throughout the ages the inverted kingdom. The inverted kingdom, or the upside down kingdom. Jesus is a king, and Jesus is establishing a kingdom. But Jesus' kingdom is completely upside down and different than the kingdoms of the earth that you and I find natural, or find even acceptable. And Jesus has been teaching his disciples all about this. Over the last couple years, that's all he's been doing, is teaching them about the inverted kingdom, the upside down kingdom. But now, in this moment, in this week, he's not just teaching them about it, he's showing them how to live it out. He's embodying it himself. Friends, in the inverted kingdom, in the upside down kingdom, there's a way that leads to life, but that way will feel unnatural and undesirable and confusing, and our flesh will resist it. Like, the meek will inherit the earth? Jesus, have you been watching the news? The meek inherit nothing. The meek will inherit the earth? Those who mourn understand true comfort? No. Those who go to Vegas, who avoid their sorrow, they understand comfort, and they just keep chasing it. Those who mourn understand comfort. The inverted kingdom says, you can do more in 6 days than you can do in 7. That doesn't make any sense. I took second grade math. 7 is a bigger number than 6. You can do more in 6 than 7? The inverted kingdom says, lose your life. That's how you'll find it. Sorry, what? The inverted kingdom says, if you wait on the Lord, that will get you ahead. How does waiting get us ahead? No, getting ahead gets us ahead. No, waiting will get you ahead. The inverted kingdom says, humble yourself and you'll be exalted. The inverted kingdom has certain axioms like, I'm too busy not to pray. You know what I'm saying? I'm too busy not to pray. I have 8 hours in a day. I got 16 hours of work. I got to spend at least 1 hour just praying to the Lord. Again, second grade math says that's not an efficient use of time. In the inverted kingdom, it is. The inverted kingdom says generosity pays. What? Or I can't afford not to tithe. What? The inverted kingdom and the logic of this kingdom feels illogical to our flesh and our world. And on Palm Sunday and this week, we know the truth. The truth is this: there is a king who is a roaring lion, but he comes like a sacrificial lamb. On Palm Sunday, we see our expectations of who we wish Jesus was and what we wish this kingdom was about. And in Holy Week, we're going to see our nature, because you know what you and I are going to do on Thursday? When we recognize that Jesus is not going to save us the way we want to be saved, and he's not bringing the kingdom we wish he brought. You know what we're going to do? We're going to stand in that crowd. We're going to look up at him and we say, give us Barabbas. I want Barabbas. I want the murderer. I want the insurrectionist. Because at least he's willing to go after it. This Jesus, crucify him. Crucify him. He's doing nothing. This Sunday and this week, my friends, our deep spiritual disease will be revealed to us. And like his disciples, we will all fall away. And maybe you're sitting here thinking, Russ, this is not a very uplifting message. Well, in the inverted kingdom, the only way to be lifted up is by confessing that we are to be lowered down. When we go down, 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 and recognize what's actually in our hearts and who Jesus is in that place, then he will lift us up, up, up. And so what I want to do for the rest of our time today is I just want to look at one story, which isn't a typical story read on Palm Sunday, but it's a story that's just been ministering to me so much recently. And in this story, it reveals the inverted kingdom. And so I just want to look at this story that also explains what it is about Jesus that makes us so frustrated and why the world wants to kill him, and draw a couple observations for us to send us out as we go into Holy Week and as we sort of do some reflection before the Lord to prepare our hearts for Good Friday and Easter Sunday. So we're going to turn to Matthew chapter 26, verses 36 through 46. This is after the Passover meal. This is but before Jesus is betrayed, in this little moment of time with his disciples, right at the end of Holy Week, right as he's about to be betrayed and be arrested and start entering toward the cross. So this is what we read, Matthew 26, verses 36 through 46. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. And he said to them, sit here while I go over there and pray. And he took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him. And he began to be sorrowful and troubled. And then he said to them, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. And going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and he prayed, my Father, if it's possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. And then he returned to his disciples and he found them sleeping. Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour? He asked Peter. Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. He went away a second time and prayed, my Father, if it's not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done. When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more, and he prayed the third time, saying the same thing. And then he returned to the disciples and he said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. There's a couple things that I want to draw our attention to that we see in the nature of Jesus and the kingdom that he's establishing. And by contrast, we see that our natures do not join him in these ways. And so we're exposed as being separated from Jesus and in need of what Jesus is bringing. Couple things. First is this: the inverted kingdom chooses relationship over reputation. The inverted kingdom chooses relationship over reputation. We're told, Jesus tells his disciples that his soul is sorrowful and troubled. The word there is perilupos. Lupos is a common word, means grief. Perilupos means like in extreme grief, great grief. Soul is so deeply grieved. It's so deeply grieved, Jesus says, it's until the point of death. I don't believe Jesus is suicidal in this moment, clearly because he's trying to get away from death. But the sorrow, the anxiety, the instability is so much. He's at this place where he's like, I want out. I know many of us in this room have been in those spaces. Just the other week, I was having a morning, not that bad, but I was having a morning of anxiety. I was having a morning of inner turmoil, inner chaos, instability. And I found myself as I was driving, it's like, I need to talk to someone. I need to talk to someone. And I started going through a list of friends. You'd be like, can I call them? And as I went through this list, I had a reason for every single one of them of why I could not call them. No, man, they're busy. I know what they're doing today. He's got his own stuff he's going through right now. Oh man, I'm just not sure that he's ready for this. I had a reason for each one of them. And those reasons spoke more not about them, but about me, right? And what did it say? It said that in my soul, I did not want them to see me like this. I was in turmoil. I was in anxiety. I couldn't process all that was happening in me. I was vulnerable. And in my vulnerability, what is the human response? Not relationship. No. My reputation, which feels like a pejorative sense. It's not like I was trying to get ahead, but just I had a certain image I wanted to project. I didn't want them to see that image was untrue. That actually I had more anxiety and instability and chaos than maybe they thought. This is God in the flesh. This is the very Son of God who in this moment is experiencing tremendous inner turmoil, sorrow unto the point of death. Luke's gospel says he sweats blood. If I was Jesus, I would not grab my friends and say, come close to me. And yet that's exactly what the King of Heaven does. He chooses relationship over his image. He chooses relationship over some reputation. In the midst of arguably Jesus' most unstable human moment on the earth, he does not separate himself from his disciples and say, let me get myself cleaned up and then I'll come back to you. No. The very enfleshment of God says, come into this place. He draws them into his instability to be with them. Stay awake with me. Pray with me. He chooses relationship over his image. See, my friends, I want a king who will rule over me and command me as his servant. But Jesus is a king who is vulnerable and draws me close as his friend. Our God is a God of relationship. And in a society that is performative and hides, it hides itself. Why? Because it's afraid. We see Jesus, the embodiment of God's kingdom, who is authentic, even in his inner turmoil. And he reveals and he draws close. Why? Because he is love. He chooses relationship over reputation. The second thing we see in this inverted kingdom is the inverted kingdom reveals strength through weakness. Jesus, in this moment and in this week leading up to the cross, will reveal his strength through his weakness. But before he can even do that, before he can even show us his strength in his weakness, first he has to expose our weakness. And he does that so it's easy, right? Did you notice he goes away for 1 hour, he comes back and Peter and the sons of Zebedee are asleep. And it says, could you not stay awake with me for 1 hour? And then Matthew's gospel adds, could you not stay awake with me for 1 hour? And he asked that to Peter. Who is Peter? Peter's the one who just told him, I'm gonna go to death with you. Really? How about let's just start by praying for 1 hour together? If you're gonna die for me, let's just pray together for an hour. You can't stay awake for 1 hour. How do you think you have any strength inside of you that's gonna drink the cup that I drink? And that's okay. He's not saying that to condemn him. He knows what's in Peter's heart. He loves Peter. He's gonna make Peter the rock of his church. But Peter doesn't know what's in his heart yet. Peter doesn't know what's actually in his flesh. Peter doesn't know how broken he is. Peter said, even if all fall away, I will not. But Peter said that after a really good meal and a full belly. It's amazing the things we say when we're full. Feeling good. I can take on the world. That's why it's always funny to me when I talk to people and with genuine hearts. They're sort of expressing man, I don't think I'm that bad of a person. And then they explain to me their life and I'm like, well, you got everything you ever want. What opportunities do you have to actually let your hungry flesh out to see what's really inside of you? Right? It's easy to make claims like this after a full belly, but when you're actually trying to stay awake and you're sleepy and you can't, then we see what's really inside of us, and that's okay. I wonder, maybe Jesus pulled us close to his weakness so that we'd realize that even in his weakness, he's still so much stronger than us. Even in his weakness, even experiencing all this sorrow that he's sweating blood, he's still so much stronger than any one of us. Jesus, anytime we want to say, man, Jesus, you don't understand my temptation, let me just say, you shouldn't say that to him. Do you know why he not only understands your temptation, but he understands it even better than you? Because he lasted far longer than you. You and I, we've given in to temptation. at I don't know, the third hour. Jesus underwent even more heaviness and more temptation and never gave in, never succumbed. It's like when you do a plank competition with someone who's really fit, right? And you do 30 seconds. I'm outing myself here, okay, guys? 30 seconds, and you're like, I'm tapping out. I'm done, I'm good. These bad boys are great. I'm good to go. And Jesus goes 2 hours. And I say, well, Jesus, you don't understand how hard that was for me. What are you talking about? I just did 2 hours of a plank. And I don't understand how hard that was for you? Right? You see how this works? I wonder if Jesus brought his disciples close because he wants them to see that he really sees the weakness of their flesh. That's why he came. He's faced it to the utmost and not given in. And when we recognize that, we see all the ways that we do give in, that we opt, in so much of our society, in our lives, we opt for displays of strength, like violence. But we do that because we're weak, not because we're strong. We're actually not strong enough to make peace. Jesus can make peace and even sacrifice, which looks like weakness, but he does it because he's so much stronger than us. Why do I yell at my kids? Because I have no grace. My tank is empty. My strength is gone. So I look really strong, but that's actually a sign that I'm really weak in that moment. You see how it's all backwards? Jesus is able to walk in a way that looks really weak, but the whole reason he does that is because actually he's really dang strong. That's the point. Pilate will betray justice because he's afraid. Jesus will accept injustice because he's not afraid. That's the point. Strength is embodied through what looks like weakness. That's why the meek inherit the earth. What looks like weakness is actually unleashing tremendous strength. So all of our understanding of the strong men, the strong king tropes who rule with intimidation and fear and condemnation, no, that's not strength, that's actually weakness. The true strength of Jesus will lay down his life, not because he's weak, but because he's the strongest human who has ever walked this earth. But us, what will we do? We will ask for Barabbas, because we'll say, that's strength right there. That's a leader. We want the murderer. We don't want the Prince of Peace. He demonstrates strength through his weakness. We reveal our weakness by trying to be strong. The inverted kingdom. And lastly, the inverted kingdom chooses obedience over desire. It chooses relationship over reputation. It reveals strength through weakness, and the inverted kingdom chooses obedience over desire. There's no pragmatic ethics here. I mean, he asked for another way. If there's any other way, Lord, if there's another means to accomplish this end of lifting me high and bringing your love and salvation and breaking the power of sin and death, if there's another means toward that end, let it be so. Let this cup pass from me. But not my will, Lord. Not what I desire. What do I desire? I would really desire not to die right now. I really don't want to be put up on a cross. I don't want to experience that. The one who is life himself, tasting death. God, the one who created life. I can't even fathom that. The one who is life, who just by speaking gave life. He is life. I'm always reminded of a line from G.K. Chesterton where he talks about how children have more life than us adults. And he says, children, they love monotony, right? So when you do something with a little kid, you throw them in the air and they love it. And what do they say? Do it again. Do it again. Do it again, right? Do it again over and over and over. And you're like, aren't you bored? And they're like, no. And Chesterton goes, perhaps God, just like children, can exult in monotony. So maybe it's not that the sun comes up every morning just by natural laws. Maybe every morning God says, do it again. do it again. Do it again. Isn't that a beautiful idea? And to the flowers in springtime, do it again. Come out again. But we, says Chesterton, we've sinned and grown old, and our Father is younger than we. But can you imagine the one who is life itself submitting to death? I can't. Out of his strength, out of his vitality, the one who keeps saying, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. Saying, there's gonna come a morning very soon where it won't happen again with me. That's incredible. But even with his desire to find another way around this, he still declares, not my will, Lord, but your will be done. He will obey the will and the nature of God, which is love and righteousness and sacrifice, even if that will and that nature means it will cost him everything. Our world, myself, I will follow my desires to my destruction. I will follow the desires of my senses and my flesh. I will trust in my own wisdom. I will reject the will of God. I will disobey the will of God to save myself, to protect myself, to achieve what I think is best for me. But Jesus will obey the Father no matter what. He will obey. And in so doing, he will find resurrection life. But before we get there, we have to go through this week. The inverted kingdom has to reach the very bottom, the rock, the foundation, when it can be turned back, where we can see it for what it is, and where we, by letting our lives go, can join him and experience life too. So what am I saying on this Palm Sunday? And band, you go ahead and come back up. What am I saying? What am I leaving you with? I'm not saying, please listen closely. I'm not saying choose relationship over your reputation. I'm saying you can't. You don't know how to do that. You're unable. I'm not saying try to be weak and therefore you'll find strength. I'm saying your flesh is incapable of doing that. I'm not saying obey God. I'm saying your desires are so strong in your flesh that they will always win out. What am I saying? I'm saying Jesus is our only hope. Jesus is our only hope. Jesus is the one who could choose relationship over reputation. Jesus is the one who revealed how strong he is precisely through his weakness. Jesus is the one who obeyed the Father and not his desires. Jesus is yours and my only hope this week, and every week, but especially this one. Jesus is the true king of this new sort of kingdom that's breaking into the earth. Jesus embodies, reveals the living God who is relationship, love, and righteousness. Because remember what I said at the beginning about that pragmatic set of ethics. Those who hold this view live exclusively by their own strength, because they have to determine what is right or wrong in every moment for their own ends. But Jesus will live not by his own strength. Jesus lives and thrives because he trusts entirely in the person, the spirit, and the strength of God, which never changes and will never fail. In a world that trusts itself and dies, Jesus will trust the Father and live. And then that invitation, as we watched our King walk that path, that invitation becomes our own. In a world, in a society, in a school, in a city that trusts itself and dies, never creates what it wants, never finds that end it's searching for. Jesus is inviting you and me to die to ourselves and trust him, trust his strength, his love, his character, his relationship, his power. Trust him and live. So we can say today, Hosanna, Hosanna, save me. Save me, Lord. I have nothing to bring to you. Nothing that can accomplish my salvation. There's nothing. But you are the God who draws me close. You are the God who wants me near. And you are the God who is the strongest force person in this universe. And we know that because we see your Son. We see what he's done and what he's doing. So here's what I want to invite you to do. Stand to your feet. We're going to sing a song of response. And I want to challenge us as we sing and respond to the Lord. Could we do it from this posture? If you could do it, if you would like step into it, a posture of just overwhelming brokenness. This day and this week, more than any other, reveals the heart of the gospel. Our strength fails us, so let's not try and be strong. Let's be weak before Jesus. Let's say, Hosanna, save me. And let him do precisely what he came to the earth to do, to save us. As a way of responding, we have communion in the front and in the back, or in the foyer level. Communion represents exactly what Jesus told his disciples. This is my body, this is my blood. This is how I'm gonna save you. I'm gonna lay it all down so that you can receive my strength. So come and receive communion. Come and kneel at the altar. If there's something in your heart, like Pastor Mark said earlier, saying, I need salvation for this, come and kneel at the altar. But let's take this space and not try and be strong, but instead show our weakness to the Lord and let him be strong on our behalf. Lord Jesus Christ, thank you. Thank you for being the true King of heaven. Thank you for being the Prince of Peace. Thank you for being strong when we are weak. Lord, we follow you into the garden. We follow you to the cross, recognizing that it's only your cross. We cannot love you as we wish we could. We will deny you. We can't stay awake. But you still draw us close. So in my brothers and sisters' weakness today, I pray they don't hide it from you or from themselves, but instead show it. And that you, through your love, through your sacrifice, might bring healing and salvation to them in abundant measure. We love you, Lord. Speak to us in this moment. Amen. Let's respond to the Lord.